All right, guys, today we're going to kick it old school, and we're going to be in Exodus chapter 12. Exodus chapter 12. So let's talk about rituals. Today I'm talking about communion again. We're going to be taking communion at the end of the service again. But what is communion? It's a ritual, right? We have lots of rituals in our lives, don't we? The church doesn't have, the church has two main rituals, two sacraments, if you will. We get the word sacrament from sacred, or we get sacred from sacrament. It's the idea of we have baptism and we have communion, also known as Eucharist, also known as the Lord's Supper, also known as other things. We have other rituals and other aspects of our life, right? Rituals are powerful. They can get you through things when you don't feel like it, right? Who here is a sports fan? Who here is a college sports fan? So I went to Indiana University, and we have a ritual there. And no matter how bad we're getting beat by Purdue, or how much we're beating Purdue, when there's a timeout during a basketball game, everybody stands up, don't we? Indiana, or Indiana. And we sing the school fight song, right? And I don't care how bad of a game it is, you get your butt up and you sing the school fight song. And it's that we say things in there that's not necessarily true that day, don't we? We don't feel like it. We're getting our butts kicked by Michigan State tonight. We can't get a rebound. We're mighty. That's the marching fight. What's the one? We're all for you. We will fight for the cream and crimson for the glory of old IU. Glory for IU. Michigan State's up by 20 and a half. What glory are we talking about? Undaunted. Undaunted. That's not true. Ohio State kicked our butts yesterday in football. Right? We're tried and true. Yeah, they just tried us. Indiana, or Indiana, Indiana, we're all for you. Some of y'all know this and y'all be singing along. Our cream and crimson crew. Oh, you have to do that. If you don't do that, you failed as a student. They ask you to leave campus. But it's a ritual. We sing that. Whether the game's going well or it's going poorly, we sing it in unison as a community, and it connects us. I much prefer to sing it when we're up by 20 against Purdue, right? Like, yeah, we're pumped, we're smiling, we're jumping as we sing it. But it's also good to sing in the bad times because, dang it, we're still IU. We're still proud of our tradition. Rituals are powerful. Rituals are powerful. And communion is a very, very, very old ritual. I'm going to even argue today that it predates the Christian church. It goes back, we're part of an ancient faith tradition that goes back to the ancient days of Judaism. And we're going to be talking about that a little bit this morning. This ritual of communion. One of the things we're going to be talking about today is the nation of Israel and where they were at. They were slaves. They were slaves. They were a nation of, they were Hebrew, but the Egyptians enslaved them and made them slaves. So can you imagine that? You were a slave, you grew up a slave, you grew up in slavery, and that's all you knew. And your dad and your mom, same story. They grew up in slavery too. They've been slaves their whole life, and that's all they've ever known. Your grandpa grew up a slave, has been in slavery his whole life. And since this is ancient times, you've probably never met your great-grandmother. So and on down the list, we have generation after generation after generation of being in slavery. And you've never heard a living person that is Hebrew talk about life without being a slave. And you know what you expect for yourself? To die a slave. And what hope do you have for your kids? Be a slave. Man, that's rough, right? That's rough. They've been slaves for so long. That's all they ever know. I'm sure for many of them, wouldn't that be great if we weren't slaves anymore? Wouldn't it be great if we could go harvest our own fields, farm our own ground, work in our own blacksmith shops, build our own buildings? But we can't, because we're slaves. We are enslaved and enslaved people. But wouldn't it be great if? Wouldn't it be great if? So this dude named Moses comes along, and God had a conversation. I'm going to go through a whole lot of Bible really quickly, guys, okay? This dude named Moses comes along, and God says, hey, you're leading my people out of Egypt. You'll be slaves no longer. You're leading them out. He's like, what the hell? We have to go and do this. I got this. I'll get you out. So he goes and tells the people. The people are like, are you sure about this? I mean, can you imagine us not being slaves? We've always been slaves. Different sermon for a different day, but I want to say this anyhow. Sometimes we like being slaves. No, I don't. I want to be free. We'll go free. Well, I can't. Why did you apply for the other job? Well, because I just can't. But I hate this job. Why are you still in that relationship? Why? This is all I've ever known. Sometimes we enjoy being slaves. Sometimes we say we want to be free, but we don't want to be free. Another conversation for another day. But for the most part, we do want to be free, don't we? We do want to be free. We want to be free of our anxiety issues, right? We feel enslaved by that. We want to be free of our favorite sins that we have. We don't like them, but dang, at the same time we love them, don't we? And we always turn back to them when times get rough. We wish our marriages were better. We keep on having the same fights, and this feels like we're enslaved to this. We feel enslaved. And we want to be set free. Can you imagine the Israel people as they were want to be set free? So, all right, Moses, you say God's going to use you to lead us free. Well, how are they going to do this? What do we need to do? Just sit tight. You don't have to do a dang thing. God's got us on this. So God starts hammering the Egyptians with all kinds of weird stuff. Like frogs and gnats and all kinds of other things. And the Egyptian people are like, no, you still ain't going free. We don't care. You're not going free. And what do you think God's people are saying? Thinking, they're never going to let us go. God sent locusts and they still won't let us go. And we tried counseling, Josh. We tried it. And it didn't heal anything. And I prayed and prayed and prayed. And this issue in my life is still not gone. And I've tried the medicines that the doctor said might help us out. But that didn't work either. Like we've tried. And I'm still a slave. And I'm always going to be a slave. And you lose hope. Do you imagine that Israel, the Hebrew people, were losing hope as plague after plague came and went? And Pharaoh said, nah, you ain't going nowhere. You ain't going nowhere. Sometimes we get like that, don't we? We lose hope. We've tried everything. And I'm still here. I'm still a slave. Let's get to Exodus 12. Exodus 12, we'll go verses 1 through 14. While the Israelites were still in the land of Egypt, the Lord gave the following instructions to Moses and Aaron. From now on, this month will be the first month of the year for you. Announce to the whole community of Israel that on the 10th day of this month, each family must choose a lamb or a young goat for a sacrifice, one animal for each household. If a family is too small to eat a whole animal, let them share with another family in the neighborhood. Divide the animal according to the size of each family and how much they can eat. The animal you select must be a 1-year-old male, either a sheep or a goat, with no defects. A pretty little cute lamb, right? I was back working in the Sunday school room, small group rooms with kids a few weeks ago. And you know what we have back there is these little cute lambs, like stuffed lambs, not real ones, but little cute ones. And I'll go back there and pet, well, you know me, I told the kids they were rabid lambs, so I tried to eat them, and the kids ran, and they had a good time. But most of the normal kids, unlike me, were like thinking they're cute and petting them and look at the little lamb, right? Because lambs are cute. You ever been to 4-H? 4-H week, see a little bitty lamb over there? spotless, no defects. Those things are cute and cuddly, right? Just want to give them a name or something, right? We'll call you Bobo or something, you know. I'll make you a pet. And it's cute and a bad. Oh, look at you. Bottle feed it if they can't, you know. They're cute and cuddly. That's the kind of lamb God said to pick out, okay? That cute one. Okay? Feeling good about the lamb? Feeling warm affections towards the lamb? It's innocent, isn't it? It's so cute, innocent. Yeah, here we go. With no defects. Take special care of this chosen animal until the evening of the 14th day of this month. Like, really cuddle it up. Make sure it's fed well. You know, comb it out or whatever the heck you do with lambs or you sheep farmers. I don't know. Take care of it. Then the whole assembly of the community of Israel must slaughter their lamb or his young goat at twilight. Now take that cute little lamb and slit its throat. The one that the family used to pet on, made sure it was fed real well, that it perhaps grew close to. Bobo, go kill it. Go kill it. At twilight, in the middle of the dark. Go kill that lamb. Still feel warm and fuzzy? No, I don't do it. They are to take some of the blood and smear it on the sides and top of the door frames of the houses where they eat the animal. That same night they must roast the meat over a fire and eat it along with bitter sour greens and bread made without yeast. Do not eat any of the meat raw or boiled in water. The whole animal, including the head, legs, and internal organs, must be roasted over a fire. Do not leave any of it until the morning. Burn whatever is not eaten before the morning. These are your 4 instructions for eating this meal. Be fully dressed, wear your sandals, and carry your walking stick in your hand. Eat the meal with urgency, for this is the Lord's Passover. This is the Lord's Passover. Passover. On that night, I will pass through the land of Egypt and strike down every firstborn son and firstborn male animal in the land of Egypt. I will execute judgment against all the gods of Egypt, for I am the Lord. But the blood on your doorpost will serve as a sign marking the houses where you are staying. When I see the blood, I will pass over you. Let's read that sentence again. When I see the blood, I will pass over you. This plague of death will not touch you when I strike the land of Egypt. This is a day to remember each year from generation to generation. You must celebrate it as a special festival to the Lord. This is a law for all time. This is a law for all time. So take Bobo, go slit his throat. Okay? Don't do it in the backyard, though, because we're going to do it out where everybody can see it. We're going to catch that blood in a bucket, and then we're going to get a big old hyssop branch and start smearing that blood all over the front door. Did I say, it didn't say front door, though, did it? It says the door frames of the house. So what I want you to do is to go make sure that you cover the left side of the doorpost, the right side of the doorpost, and up top here, you know. And if some of that drips down here, and you got blood here and here and here and here, you know, hey, there you go. Make sure it's good and bloody, okay? Good and bloody. You catching some things here? Get that blood everywhere. That innocent lamb. I told you I was going to save you, didn't I? And I mean that, the Lord says. They won't listen to the frogs coming. They won't listen to the locusts coming. I'm going to get you out, and I'll do it no matter what. I'm going to send an angel of death through. And so start killing all the firstborn males in the community. And if you have that blood on your doorpost, the angel of death will pass by. Now, as I was preparing for this sermon, I was trying to think to myself, how am I going to make it seem nice and friendly? Because I'm talking about God sending an angel of death to kill firstborn in the community. How am I going to make that softer? Well, I heard the Lord say, let them know I'm coming for them. Ride or die, I will get my people. Whatever hell you're going through, whatever you're a slave to, he's coming for you. And nothing's going to stand in his way. And whatever he has to do, he's going to do it. He's going to do it. He's coming to get you. He's coming to set you free. And by the way, I'm serious about this. Like, don't even put yeast in the bread, because we ain't got time for yeast to make the bread rise. Eat with your doggone sandals on, your walking stick ready. We're rolling out of here. I am setting you free. I'm coming for you. It's not going to be pretty. And it's scary. And think about if you're really these people. And you did that. Right? It's going to be a crazy night. And you know, outside my door is the angel of death. And there's nothing I can do to keep him from coming in other than this blood there. This sacrificed innocent lamb. That's all I got. Because I know that I've done some stuff, right? I know I'm a sinner. I know deep in my heart of hearts that I'm not much different than the Egyptians, right? I'm a sinner too, just like they are. Judgment's coming. What is there to separate me from that judgment? How will I be set free? Scary stuff, right? Sure enough, it was a rough night. Angel of death came. The blood was on the doorpost. You're fine. Next morning, the Egyptians were like, what the heck? Billy's dead. And you hear the neighbors across the street crying too. Just get your stuff and get the heck out of here, Israel. Just go. We're done there. Move it. The Israelites were set free then. Now it's a time for celebration. We're no longer slaves. We're no longer slaves. The angel of death didn't come in and kill our firstborn. So now we're leaving everything we've ever known and wandering through the desert with this guy named Moses. Still scary as heck, right? And by the way, as soon as you leave, these Egyptians are going to change their mind. They'll take off. We're coming for you. It's not going to be an easy road, but today you are free. You are free from your slavery. You are no longer slaves. You are no longer slaves. And that's why Jewish people continue to celebrate Passover to this day. They are no longer slaves of Egyptians. And that's why you might be wondering, why aren't we celebrating Passover? We do celebrate Passover. We do celebrate Passover. One of the last things I read there was that, where was I at here? Verse 14. This is a day to remember each year from generation to generation. You must celebrate it as a special festival to the Lord. This is a law for all time. So like we celebrate Christmas every year and Easter every year, they've been celebrating Passover for generations and generations and generations after this moment. They've celebrated that holiday that they were no longer slaves. They were no longer slaves. So it's something to celebrate. So Jesus is celebrating this. As a little boy, probably the family gathered around to celebrate the Passover. And he's there with his buddies that night. He said, hey boys, let's go to Jerusalem. We'll celebrate Passover in Jerusalem. And they're there. They're all gathered together. And you know how you do at Christmas. Everybody's, talking and this and that. And you're not necessarily focused on why you're there for Christmas. You're talking about the football game or the poor or bad, the good or the bad deer season you had, or your plans for deer season next year, or the job, or whatever. You're kind of talking about all those kinds of things, right? Then Grandpa says a prayer, somebody does something, and it pulls you back in, focus on why we're celebrating Christmas. So there's Jesus with his guys. And we turn the Bible now to 1 Corinthians chapter 11, 23 through 26. Now remember, these boys here are celebrating Passover as an ancient Jewish boy would do. Okay? They don't know anything about no cross. They just know that Jesus is their guy, Jesus is their Messiah, and they're following Jesus. Verse 23 through 26. This is Jesus. This is Paul's writing, talking about what Jesus did that night. For I pass on to you what I received from the Lord himself. On the night when he was betrayed, the Lord Jesus took some bread and gave thanks to God for it. Then he broke it in pieces and said, this is my body, which is given for you. Do this to remember me. In the same way, he took the cup of wine after supper, saying, this cup is the new covenant between God and his people, an agreement confirmed with my blood. Do this to remember me as often as you drink it. For every time you eat this bread and drink this cup, you are announcing the Lord's death until he comes again. His disciples at this point are going, what the heck are you talking about? This is Passover. We're talking about what happened generations ago when our people got free. They're no longer slaves, and we celebrate that. Their chains were broke free, and that's what we're celebrating. That's what we're to remember tonight. Could you imagine if you sat down with your family at Christmas and your crazy uncle stood up and said, hey guys, today instead of, I got a crazy uncle. Hey guys, today instead of celebrating Jesus' birthday, we're celebrating my birthday. That's what this is all about. We're celebrating my birthday this Christmas. Like, what the heck is wrong with you? That's blasphemy. We're not doing that. Either you're completely evil or completely crazy, uncle. Sit down and shut up. What have you been drinking over there? How much did you have, all right? So the disciples are there, and Jesus is talking about how the Passover, when you do this again, remember me, for this is my bread. This bread is my body. And this wine, it represents my blood. Do this to remember me. I was the lamb, boys. That's what he's saying. I'm the lamb. There is hope for us. There is hope for you. There is hope for the church. Not because of anything that the church does or what you're going to do, but for what Christ has done for you. Whatever it is this morning that you feel you're enslaved to, you can be set free from that. That's real easy to say, Josh. Yes, it is real easy to say. And I'm not saying it's going to be an easy road. And I'm not saying that things are going to go the way you want them to go. And I'm not going to say it's going to be, I'll say it again, easy. But Christ tells us he can set us free. He does set us free. And freedom might not look like what you thought it would. Right? You think the nation of Israel, you think that they envisioned the road that was ahead of them? No, they didn't. But yet they were free. And God calls us to freedom. So do we take Passover? Yes and no. We take communion. The church takes communion. Jesus is telling us this with communion. Remember me. Remember, there is nothing that I won't do to set you free. Ride or die, I will set you free. What's on the doorpost of your heart? I think for so many of us, we're standing over there. The angel of death is outside. Whatever addiction out there, whatever marital problems are out there, the bank collector calling up because you haven't paid again, whatever's outside that door, you're sitting there holding that doggone doorknob or trying not to let it come in. And you're not going to let it come through on you because you can get through this. You can do this. And Jesus says, no, that's what you need. You need me. So that's why we no longer sacrifice lambs anymore. Jesus was the sacrifice. His blood covers it all. So do this in remembrance of me. So the church has been doing that for the past, say, 2,000 years or so. There's lots of different ways we take communion. And usually around here we only take communion once a month. But I'm not going to preach about communion and not take communion. And we're going to take communion a little bit differently this morning. There's a tradition called intinction. Intinction is where you have a cup of wine and a piece of bread. And two people are holding it before you, and you come forward, you tear off a piece of the bread, dip it in the wine, here it's Welch's grape juice, and you eat it. And it's called intinction. So this morning, what I'm inviting you to is this. I'm inviting you to take communion with us. We have an open communion policy. What that means is you don't have to be a member of this church to take communion. we ask that you're a believer. If you're not sure about this Jesus stuff, then just don't come up. That's cool. Just sit tight. It's all good. But if you need saved from slavery, whatever it is in your life, if you've been saved from your own sins, and I invite you to communion at this time. It's a way to remember what Christ has done for us. So with the four kids that I asked to help communion come on up here, I want to get some things ready here. One of the things you guys will notice, or you might not notice, these four kids were the firstborn in their family. They were the firstborn. So there was a time when there wasn't other kids in Cole's family. It was just him, and Wyatt, and Violet, and Eva here too. Remember that when it was only one kid at Christmas? When they got they still get way too much stuff. They got way too much stuff. And they had all the focus, and it was the joy of the family and the hope of the family. And so, we haven't had a baby here for a long time, and now we do. And there's just so much joy and glee with that. Imagine they're gone. Because that's what God did. He gave up his only begotten Son for you, for us. For us. He gave up Jesus' only begotten Son for us. So I asked these guys to help us this communion, and they'll be the first to share communion with us to do. So Jesus broke the bread. Tear off a piece of bread. Just one at a time. And then go to your station, okay? We're going to have two stations this morning for this. I will have a station to my left and a station to my right. Just one row at a time as you feel led to come on up and take communion. I will encourage you to do so. Let us pray. God, we thank you for standing at the door for us. We know we can't do it ourselves. Even when we tell ourselves we can, when we try, we recognize that we need you. We need you to break us free from our slavery. We need you for salvation. And you died on a cross. Your flesh was ripped. Your blood was spilled. And you didn't deserve that. You were innocent. But we deserved every bit of it. And you stood in our place. We thank you for that. We thank you for that much love. A love that's hard for us to fathom. And I pray that we become a people who, one, understand that we have been set free. And we live like it. Two, we become a people who understand that you taught us to love as much as you loved us. So I pray that we'll be a people who do that and become a church who's known for their love. Father God, we love you and we thank you for all that we have blessed with. It's in the holy name of Jesus that I pray. Amen. Guys, God bless. Have a great Sunday.